We had to let him go because of injuries, and he got himself a pick six. And that pick six was caused off of, well, what do you know? A drop pass by Amari Cooper right into his hands. I mean, so.
I think there should be a separate stat for, interceptions that work like that go off wide receivers' hands. That shouldn't go all on the quarterback.
Yeah, that's the only interception that I'm not blaming on him.
But yeah, I mean, and once something like that happens, it snowballs, and 24th quarter points by Kansas City, that did it.
And the thing is, they didn't have to earn a single one of them.
Nope. They were it was handed to them. And you cannot do that against a division opponent, especially Kansas City. I mean,
exactly. They're a very opportunistic team there, and man, I think Kansas City won 6 in a row, and I think the Raiders have probably played them the best as any team have while they were going through this streak. So I mean, that's another thing that kind of hurts. I mean, Kansas City is up here just railing opponents, and the Raiders had them on the ropes and just pretty much gave it to them.
Well, and that's the funny thing about one of the reasons why the Kansas City rivalry is my favorite is that it doesn't seem to matter what the records are. The two teams, or where they play, the two teams always play each other tough. So it's become my favorite AFC West rivalry.
Yeah, those guys, they do bring their game every time they get together. And we'll have another dust-up with them week 17 over there in Arrowhead. I just hope that it means something, which it probably won't for the Raiders. But we can sit there and hope. So we got 4 games left. Let's go handle all 4 of them.
Maybe we can take Kansas City out of the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be great. Be a little bit of a spoiler. I mean, never knows. I mean, we've knocked them out of the playoffs before on Millennium Weekend. Why not do the same thing again tonight? I mean, week 17, rather.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was pretty much our look at this Kansas City-Oakland game. I thought I was going to be a lot more pissed than I was, Jim. I think I was pretty cool, though, discussing Derek Carr and all this. So, and now we take a look ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I kind of gave you till Wednesday instead of Tuesday to cool off because I knew you were hot. So.
Yeah, D. Will came over there on the show with me and Josh the other night, and I pretty much ranted to him the whole time, and I think that's where I got it all out of me, so I think we're good now. Yeah, so next up here, we got ourselves a pretty big challenge here Sunday going on here in Denver as we take on the Denver Broncos. That ought to be a pretty fun game. We had those guys on the ropes last time when they came down to Oakland, and we pretty much just let it go. Once again, a Derek Carr turnover was pretty much the determining factor in that game, the pick 6 to Chris Harris, which gave Denver the 16-7 victory and ultimately led to a 16-10 victory. But the Raiders actually held their own pretty well in that game. Marcel Reese got into the end zone, and we said he'd have to be big in that game. I think he'll probably have to have himself a big role in this game again just to keep the Raiders around in it. And the defense seems a lot better than it was last time around. I don't believe that Brock Osweiler is much of a threat. You slow down the run game. C.J. Anderson has himself a bit of a gimpy ankle, so that could help the Raiders out a bit. So pretty much, yeah, just get it out there, get it to Latavius Early, hit him with that 1-2 punch with Tamiz Olawale, and we should be right there in this game. So I'll let you talk about what you think should happen in this football game here.
Well, the last time we played Denver, to me, we played them very, very well, considering. Because watching what Denver's defense did to, for example, Teddy Bridgewater when the Vikings played him, they about killed him. And to me, the Raiders played it very well. I noticed Carr was taking quicker dropbacks and getting rid of the ball, except for that pick 6, which was just about the worst play you could possibly have in that situation. I think we need to have more of that because I don't expect Denver's defensive philosophy to change. They're going to come after you, so we've got to keep that in mind, and to me, do the same thing. Just quick hits, quick passes, and utilize the tight ends and get the running backs involved in the passing game. And to me, I just checked the injury report. Rodney Hudson was a full participant in practice, so he's listed as probable right now.
Thank God, we're going to need him.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best news we could have. So that's something to look forward to. Defensively, I like what the Raiders did against Kansas City last week with the running game. Because Kansas City has, 2 or 3 running backs that have stepped up without Charles in the lineup and have had very productive games, and they didn't last week. And that's continued to be a pleasant surprise for me, is the run defense. So if we can hold down Hillman and I'm blanking on the other running back's name.
C.J. Anderson.
C.J. Anderson, if we can hold those 2 down, I'm not saying stop them completely, but if we can hold them down, I don't want to degrade Osweiler, because I hate doing that, because that's when we usually get bitten in the butt. But to me, the passing game isn't the threat that it's been either with Manning or with Osweiler. So to me, stopping their running game is the key. You're right about that, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to diss Osweiler either, but I think the Raiders will defensively have a better chance if they can force Denver into 3rd and long situations and force Osweiler to make some decisions and just send the dogs after him, namely Mario Edwards Jr. and Khalil Mack. Go get it. Go eat, boys. That's what I say.
Exactly. So if we can stop them, well, I'm looking at Denver's injury report right now, and C.J. Anderson is questionable. He didn't participate in practice at all this week, so he may actually be out.
Yeah, he may not go actually this week then if that's going on. And if he doesn't go, I mean, it's pretty much on Ronnie Hillman. And I think the Raiders should be able to handle Hillman. They did a pretty good job on him, bottling him up the first time around. So just continue to do what works, and we'll have ourselves a good shot at this one. I'm not trying to make much of a prediction, Jim, but I do believe that the Raiders, if they can do these things, I mean, it's going to be just like the first time around. You'll be right there with a chance to win. And you remember the movie Rocky, right? Apollo Creed, he struggled to hell with Rocky the first time around and escaped by the skin of his ass. And the second time, Rocky was able to get him that second time around. Let's just hope something similar like that takes place. Although I just hope that we're not as exhausted as Apollo and Rocky were at the end of it.
Well, hopefully that's a good lesson to have, because we were, even with that pick 6, we were this close to beating them the first time around. We were within 7 points at the end of the game. So, even with the pick 6, which was a killer, to me, we played Denver very well. And if we can avoid those kinds of mistakes on Sunday, and, Carr gets his mojo back a little bit and starts, making good decisions like he's done all season long, to me, there's no reason why we can't at least play them tough.
Oh, yeah, we'll be right there. The Raiders, I mean, they're like a team that rarely gets blown out now anyway, so they'll be right there. And I know that we're not much of a basketball program, Jim. We are a football program. But, I mean, I got to talk about a team that's Oakland-related. The Golden State Warriors, man, they've been a bit on the ropes tonight, but Stephen Curry just hit a big-time three-pointer to put them ahead of Boston 103-101 as they go for the 24-0. So I just wanted to throw that little side note to our Oakland listeners.
How much time is left?
There's about 46 seconds left here.
Oh, so man. That's like the fastest hour in sports is the last minute of a basketball game.
Or when it's a close game like this, it could take 30 minutes for them to finish just 10 seconds.
But, hey, to me, go Boston. But
you a Laker, man. You can't root for Boston.
I can't root for Golden State because everybody does that these days.
Yeah. I think everybody just wants to see how far the streak can go.
Well, I wonder if the 92 Bulls, one of those Bulls teams went 72-10 or something like that.
That was the 96 Bulls, and Boston just tied the game up at 103 with about 40 seconds left here.
I wonder if Golden State goes 73-9 or something. If the 96 Bulls will come out like the 72 Dolphins do and root against them.
Yeah, let's hope not, man. Because, I mean, it's bad seeing Mercury Morris just prattle around out of nowhere talking about, if you go 19-0, you're still not better than us. I mean, it's just ridiculous now. Now he's up here talking smack about Carolina. And they're actually a pretty likable, undefeated team.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. To me, Cam Newton is in the hunt for MVP because look what he's done with basically no wide receivers.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, man. And he's just doing it pretty much on his own merit. He's actually turning guys like Ted Ginn and Devin Funchess into functional NFL wide receivers. Can you believe it?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's definitely proven himself to me. Yeah.
So it's looking like we're headed into overtime here in Boston. 1.2 left. Golden State will have a shot at the final shot here. But let's see here. Okay, today in Raider history, I remember back in 1994, the Raiders actually got to 7-6 on this day with 23-13 victory over these aforementioned Denver Broncos. At that point, it was like one of the Raiders' final games here in L.A., and that game was blacked out there, so I remember listening to it on the radio. Jeff Hosteller had himself a couple of touchdown passes. That defense, they got the Elway, horse face, and hopefully Sunday we can do a little bit more of the same here. Let's see here. Sunday in Raider history, not much has happened historically on December 13th, so we'll just leave it as is. And that's all I look at Raider history here. So you remember anything about the 94 Raiders, Jim? I know we went 9-7. We ended up missing the playoffs by that one game. So that was the last L.A. team.
94 season was the last 500 season, I think, for a while. Yeah, they weren't 500 again until Gruden got there. So 9-7 was the last above 500 team for a while. And it had one of my favorite Raiders, one of the most underrated Raiders, in my opinion, Terry McDaniel.
Oh, yeah, Terry McDaniel. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked that he wasn't the defensive player of the year with that team that year. I mean, every time you look at history and highlights of that team, he's getting interceptions and running them back.
He was one of my favorites. He didn't get much attention, but he was a really good cornerback.
Yeah, the Raiders, they really cleaned up in that 88 draft, I tell you. Tim Brown and Terry McDaniel, man, yeah. Ron Wolf knew what he was doing that day.
Yeah, Ron Wolf was a genius to me. And I wanted to give a little bit of a shout-out because I saw this week that John Madden underwent heart surgery. And
yeah, he had open heart surgery.
Yeah, he's recovering and doing pretty well, so that's good to hear.
Get well soon, Coach. We love you.
Yeah, I want him to be around as long as possible, so I'm glad he's feeling better.
Yeah, at least to see one more ring anyway.
That'd be nice. Yeah. Wow. I'm looking at this 94 team and just kind of going back down memory lane. Chester McLaughlin.
Yeah, Chester McLaughlin. Let's see, who else was on that team? Anthony Smith.
Anthony Smith. Those are the Harvey Williams days.
Oh, yeah, I remember him, too. Then we had Napoleon McCallum when he broke his leg on the season opener against San Francisco, which is to this day probably the most gruesomest leg injury I've ever seen in my life.
It was ugly. I mean, to me it beat the Theismann one because I think McCallum broke his leg up higher. I think he broke the thick part. Which
yeah, it's pretty.
I've seen it a couple times, and it's not something I like to go back and watch. So.
Yeah, it wasn't really fun. I tell you that much, man. Well, another great show for us tonight, Jim. I mean, it's already 7:00. No way, dude. Time flies when you're having fun and you're being Raiderific, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sitting up here waiting to see what goes on here with this Golden State Boston game, so we can give the guys a little bit of an update here. So I guess we'll stick around here until we find out what happens. All right, we got .7 left here on the clock, 103-103.